1992, Ecco the Dolphin was published and released on the Sega Genesis. The game revolved around Ecco, a bottlenose dolphin, being the leader of a small pod or group of dolphins. Upon accepting a challenge by a pod mate to jump out of the water and see who can break out of the waves and leap out the highest, he does so, but the rest of the pod are abducted out of the ocean while he's leaping for the challenge. Coming back into the bay, he finds the others are gone and ventures to investigate. Ecco travels to the Arctic to meet Big Blue, an old whale respected by various marine life for its wisdom. Big Blue mentions to Ecco that a storm occurs every 500 years and that there is a reason for it. Big Blue mentions that Ecco should find the astrolite, the oldest life form on Earth. Ecco leaves and eventually discovers the astrolite. The creature imbues Ecco with magical powers and explains that he has to venture to the city of Atlantis and use a time-traveling machine left behind by the Atlanteans. Traveling there, he discovers an ancient library that explains the truth. The origin of the storms is caused by an alien race known as the Vortex that are, as a race, lost the ability to produce food on their own planet. So every 500 years, when the celestial planets align, they use their advanced technology to harvest the waters of the earth. The Atlanteans actually fought a long and devastating war that ended with a beam striking Atlantis from the Vortex civilization and causing it to sink into the ocean. Learning this, he activates the time machine and travels back 55 million years. Ecco also locates the astrolite in the past but is attacked by it. Forced to fight, he obtains a globe from it, and this causes a portal in which he returns to the present. The astrolite then commands Ecco to use the time traveling to return to the moment that his pod is abducted. Traveling through the device, this time he returns to help his pod as he's abducted into outer space, as he then fights the Vortex and eventually encounters their queen. Defeating her in battle, Ecco and his pod escape back to the Earth. A sequel was released in 1994, Ecco The Tides of Time. Continuing on the first story, Ecco still has the powers granted by the astrolite, and Ecco's pod are in peace. Ecco later encounters his distant descendant, Triella, and uses more Atlantean time travel to save the world with another victory over the Vortex that come back for revenge. In a final confrontation against the Vortex race and their queen, they're sent back in time to prehistory, while they're forced to remain and eventually integrated into Earth's system of life as anthropods. Ecco decides to use the time machine one more time rather than destroy it, thus heading to an unknown era in time and space. These original two stories of Ecco the Dolphin and the concept of the games were highly applauded and praised at the time. Aspects of screen plot and originality of the character were noted, and Ecco was one of the most talked about in terms of games and video game characters of the early 1990s. Sega had originally planned to end the Ecco series with a third game to create a trilogy, but the concept was abandoned and the third Ecco game was remade into Ecco Jr., released in 1995. Which also was not connected at all to the prior two games, with this game focused at younger players. The game had positive reactions from reviewers but didn't continue the groundbreaking story that the first two games had established. Nothing more would be done by Sega due to problems with the Saturn and as a gaming company in general at that particular time in gaming history. The Ecco franchise would be abandoned until Ecco the Dolphin, Defender of the Future was released in the year of 2000 for the Sega Dreamcast. The story was not connected at all to the original two games of the Sega Genesis and was considered as a reboot to the series. However, due to the problems that plagued the entire lifespan of the Dreamcast, the game did show promise but was quickly forgotten. Despite the fact that Ecco the Dolphin was so widely respected and known throughout the early 1990s, Sega never really took the franchise seriously, and combined with its own problems let it be forgotten. Or was it? Throughout the mid to late 1990s, and despite the other related Ecco games, there was always the idea to revive the original storyline created by the first two games, but nothing serious ever came of these notions. More than 20 years later, in 2016, the creator of the series, Ed Annunziata, filed a lawsuit at the time with Sega and later reached a settlement regarding the legal rights to the franchise. Annunziata tried to take the rights due to him making an unsuccessful attempt to make a spiritual successor for a third Ecco game called The Big Blue, named for the whale depicted in the first game with online funding. Though the results of the lawsuit weren't made public, Annunziata did make public comments about wanting to revive the franchise. Even if the franchise is rebooted, the allure and groundbreaking concept of the original two games won't be continued in the same sense of it being done for the first time nearly 20 years prior. Sometimes a character can be forgotten when previously for a time they were well known before.